Lifetime of ministry. How many exact years have you been serving?
49.
49. Wow.
Yeah, because of mandatory retirement, it's
Hmm.
at 72. I would have
Right.
gone, I like even numbers. I would have gone to 50 if I could have.
Well, in some ways you are.
Yeah,
In some ways
yeah.
you are. So when
Yeah.
you look back over these years, when you were reflecting, what moments stand out most to you?
Um, there are so many. Um, yeah, of course it's the personal connections with people. The it- the failures, the things that you learn from. Um, you sort of keep a tally of those sorts of things, the crises that you weather together with your people.
Mm.
Um, so many of those. Uh, and and realizing, that God is faithful in all of it. I love the quote, and it can sound a bit cheesy, cliche, but every storm runs out of rain.
Mm.
Um, Over a lifetime of ministry, you really see that that's true. That those times and those places that you thought we'll never recover from this, or how are we going to get through this, you realize that there's something on the other side. And even during the midst of it, God has been faithful. Um, and that um, people are willing to step up and step in, um, when those times happen. They're the big celebrations, the good things, the church anniversaries, um, but the things that really stick with you are the tough times that you endure with folks.
Mhm. What's one of those most memorable, tough times that you endured with folks at one of your churches?
Um, One of those, of course, was 9/11.
Mm.
How do we get through? How do we do this? Our charge conference was scheduled for that night.
Oh, wow.
So I called the district superintendent, Susan Ulmer, and said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "We go ahead with it. This does not derail the church
Mm.
and the mission of the church." And so we gathered in the sanctuary that night. And I remember people's faces were just sort of blank. Um, but it was good to be together,
Mhm.
and to reflect on the ministry of the past year, and to make plans and commitments for going forward, again recognizing God's faithfulness in all things.
Mhm. That is so hard to have charge conference the night of. I was going into the second grade,
Mm-hmm.
or I was in the second grade. I was homeschooled that year. Therefore, I deeply remember 9/11. I can remember
Yeah.
my dad calling my mom. I remember the telling her to turn the little gray TV on in our kitchen. We went to another family whose children were also homeschooled. The oldest daughter my mom tutored, and we went over there, and they lived in one of those old colonial houses in downtown Camden. So you
Uh-huh.
had all those like parlor doors into one living room, and her mom was in there while my mom was tutoring the oldest girl in the study. Her mom was sitting there, and she had shooed the two of us out. She didn't want us to hear anything. Well, we were able to sit at one of the glass doors where we could see, but she couldn't see us. I remember opening the door and listening, and we went to Littleton Street that night. I remember having a similar 9/11 service gathering of just the people, and I remember where I was sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So it stands out. So,
Yeah, it
but that is
does.
such a holy response if this does not derail the church and the mission of the church.
Yes,
That is a
absolutely.
powerful example to set. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a, oh, we cancel everything.
Mhm.
What are we going to do?
Right, crisis mode.
Um, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you carried forward. That seems to be a very Wesleyan answer
I think it
to
is.
me. It's not negating what happened. It is acknowledging, but it is
Hmm.
acknowledging that evil does not triumph over the good of the kingdom of God.
Absolutely.
Wow,
Yep.
that's a wise DS.
Yes.
Very wise DS.
I learned a lot from
I'm
her.
sure. I'm sure. So, as the longest serving female minister in the South Carolina Annual Conference, over the decades, how have you seen the opportunities change and evolve in your career for women? And what changes have meant the most to you from one
Okay.
young female minister to another female minister?
Um, I was ordained deacon. Of course, you were ordained deacon and then elder back in the day, in 1977. At that time, there were no female bishops. There were no female district superintendents in the southeastern jurisdiction. There were maybe a dozen clergywomen in
Mhm.
South Carolina. And I remember there were no women in leadership positions. So I remember I think it was in 1980, when the quadrennial elections for all the committees, boards for the annual conference was being done, and there were no clergy women nominated to
Mm.
any committee.
Wow.
And of course, to nominate from the floor, you have to have a name
Mm.
of the person you're nominating to replace somebody whose name had been put in nomination by the Committee on Nominations.
Right.
So it would be I nominate Rebecca Rowell to serve in place of Mary Teasley.
Mm.
So you'd have to do that.
Right.
So the clergy women got together and came up with a slate of women who could serve on different
Hmm.
committees, and the people this person instead of this person
Hmm.
instead of that person down the list. And I remember at annual conference, it was Susan Henry Crow
Hmm.
every time who stood at the microphone. Bishop, I would like to make a substitute nomination from the floor.
Wow.
And everyone, and after about three, you could hear every time she got up to the microphone, it was like, I mean, people were very
She would
verbal.
have been on annual conference bingo that we play.
There you go. Absolutely. And none of the clergywomen were elected. None in place of the ones who had been placed in nomination by the Committee on Nominations. But the next quadrennium, there were women who were nominated, as
Oh, in
many as
those four
possible for one.
years.
It was another 4 years of
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
um, to get that done and to continue to work so that everybody who needs representation has a seat at the table,
Yes.
and that not just have a seat at the table, but has a voice at the table.
Because there's a difference.
There's a difference. And nominating committee now is very intentional
Hmm.
about looking at age, looking at representation, gender, um, all of those things. Is everybody nominated from the Greenville district?
Hmm.
Are we sharing the responsibilities across. So that's a huge change. Just that intentionality,
Mm,
that people have a voice
mhm.
in the leadership of the annual conference. That was huge.
That is huge, and huge how it took 4 additional years for actual change to happen.
Hmm.
It's one thing to change a statement in the book of discipline or a rule. It's another to actually invite the people into the work, not just simply have them sit at the table.
Yeah, and sometimes the work takes a long time,
Hmm.
and realizing you might never see the fruit of what you've done,
Hmm.
but just to stay consistent,
Yeah.
um, and to make how are we coming on this? These
Hmm.
nominate people. Let's look at this. We've had a female bishop now
Hmm.
in serving in South Carolina,
Yes.
numerous female district superintendents.
Hmm.
So it's a huge change
It is.
in 49 years.
It's moving in the right direction, at least.
And a clergywoman from South Carolina elected as bishop.
Hmm. Which is fantastic.
Yes.
So, over the years, has there been any one particular congregation or individual that had a deep impact on you in your career?
I go back to Platte Springs. All of them had an impact. All
Hmm.
of them did. Um, the church that I talked about 9/11.
Hmm.
3 months later, they had a fire that destroyed everything but the sanctuary.
Oh my gosh.
This was the Sunday before Christmas. I
Wow.
get a phone call at 6 in the morning. We've got a fire at the church. I throw on clothes. I said, what, let's go see what it is. As soon
Right.
as I turned the corner, I saw this huge plume of black smoke, and I go, this is not good.
Mm-mm.
Um, the choir was supposed to perform their cantata the next day,
Hmm.
Sunday. Um, so all the music was destroyed. Choir room was destroyed, all the records, all the offices. Bishop McCleskey kept saying, I can't believe all your old sermons were destroyed. That was the thing he worried about the most.
Oh.
It was funny. But the organist and choir director found a Presbyterian church
Hmm.
that had done that cantata several years before. They had all their scores.
Wow.
So they let us borrow them.
Hmm.
And the next morning, the choir did their Christmas cantata.
Wow.
Again, resilience.
Hmm.
Um, everything, everything going back to the fact that there is always another chapter,
Hmm.
that God is faithful, that God's people are resilient, and it will all come through.
So ministry having those both mountaintop and difficult valley, in all of your mountaintop valley moments throughout your ministry, what sustained your faith and your call during that time? I know that we speak so often about our faith as Christians, as ministers, but when we
Mhm.
go through trauma or those kind of deep valley experiences, there's not enough discussion around how it impacts a pastor's call and that deep relationship. So over the years, what has sustained you in your call and in your faith and the high top and the valley moments.
It's just the call itself.
Mm.
Yesterday, George and I went out. He was looking for a new pair of, we went to run in. He doesn't run, but was looking for a new pair
Mhm.
of shoes. And they had a sign on the wall, and it said, if you don't hate running just a little bit, you don't really love running. And I said, that's sort of like ministry.
Hmm.
If you don't quit, I quit, I'm done, I'm finished, I can't do this anymore. If you don't do that every once in a while, you, you really don't understand ministry,
Mm.
because it's hard,
Yes.
it's challenging. Um, it's those difficult moments when you do say I quit. I used to say I quit every Monday, and on Tuesday I say, okay, what's next? you know.
Hmm.
Um, but it's that call. When George and I first started dating, we had met in seminary, so we had sort
Nice.
of known each other a long time. And he said, so many women, especially that were my age, I was 55 at the time, had quit
Hmm.
or gone on to do something else.
Hmm.
And he said, why are you still doing what you're doing? And I said, it's the call,
Hmm.
because it never went away, even during the hard part. And I would examine and I would search. Is this trying to tell me that God's calling me to something different?
Hmm.
God's calling me to something new. And I never got that nudge. Um, so just being rooted and grounded in that call
Hmm.
is probably the most important thing that any of us can do.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
It's hard. It's
Um,
hard. It's
off record, I'm
hard
putting that in,
work.
internally absorbing that a little bit. The call.
Hmm.
So, in serving all of these generation of families, you baptize the children, you officiate the weddings, you celebrate lives through funerals. So, we're walking through with people as pastors in all the different stages of their lives. So, how has walking alongside people through all these different stages of life influenced your own ministry work and your own call to ministry?
Um, like you, I have friends, colleagues in other denominations
Hmm.
who stay in places 20, 30 years, and they do the baptism and the confirmation and the wedding and the funerals with a family
Hmm.
consistently. We don't. We
Hmm.
get to be there for one season. It reminds me that God was here before I got here,
Hmm.
and God will be here when I'm gone, and it's not all up to me. What do I bring to this season of ministry in this place?
Hmm.
I remember one year I got a call on the Friday before annual conference started,
Hmm.
telling me that I would be moving in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, and the answer, of course, is yes, Bishop. I will go. I will go where
Yes.
you send me. And I was so mad. I was so mad
Hmm.
because I had already planted my garden for the summer.
Oh,
And I was like, somebody's going to be eating my peppers, and somebody's going to be eating my
right.
potatoes, and they're going to be eating my squash, and all of those things. And that helped me realize we're always enjoying the fruit of somebody else's labor.
It's true.
And we leave seeds behind for ministry that somebody else will see the fruit of.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's taught me just not to hold on to any of it too tightly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ours,
Mm-hmm.
it's God's.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to be faithful to how God wants to use us in this place, in this season. And that's about the best we can do.
I think so. It's all we are capable of doing. So you've
Mm-hmm.
stepped away from full-time ministry because you
Yes.
still have stepped into a different way of ministry and pastoring. But in all of that, and even after you leave this part-time pastoring that you are doing, what do you hope your legacy will be? And not the accomplishments, but how people remember your leadership and witness of your faith, not just as a pastor, but as a Christian.
I saw I saw something on a tombstone, a meme not long ago that said she tried. And sometimes I think, well, maybe that's it.
That's
Um,
not a bad one at all.
um, I keep sticky notes around when I find quotes that I like,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of inspire me or that I hope will shape me.
Mm-hmm.
Two of those. One is from William Sloane Coffin, who is one of my heroes in the faith. Risk something big for something good.
Mm-hmm.
And Jane Goodall, whom I adore.
Yes.
What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think for me, that's what I hope shapes whatever my legacy will be. We don't get to decide what that is.
We don't.
Only history tells us what that is. Um, but those two quotes and some others, I hope are shaping and are forming, um, whatever history decides my legacy will be.
Mm-hmm. So, if you could sit down with a young woman, so I'm a young woman, but I am in ministry and I have been in ministry about 10 years now. So, I'm still a baby and new, but I'm not as much of a baby as someone who maybe just has graduated college or so like I answered my call to ministry when I was a junior in college. So if
Yeah,
you could
I did
sit
too. Yeah, same
so if
thing.
you could sit face to face with someone who is a junior in college today and heard that little tap on the shoulder and it's getting louder and louder, what would you encourage or the wisdom you would give her as she moves forward into looking into going into ministry?
Um, just surround yourself with colleagues and other people and listen to their stories.
Mhm.
Listen to their stories. You share your call and listen to their call. You know, how is God shaping and forming you to do this?
Mhm.
Um, I, Early in my ministry, I read a book called How to Succeed in Business Without Being One of the Boys.
Nice.
which
Nice.
is a which is a and in the early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
that gave me the freedom to use who I was and my voice,
Mm-hmm.
which may have been different than my male colleagues' voices, um, to be in ministry. God didn't call me in spite of being female. God called me because I was.
Mm.
And God needed those gifts again, those voices at the table.
Yes.
um and now culturally, as we see some of the other parts of the body of Christ saying that women can't do this. Um, just again, just being rooted and grounded in that call that this is what God has been preparing you up to this point in your life
Mhm.
and will continue to strengthen you for the ministry that God has for you to do. Go for it.
Put that on a t-shirt. Go for it.
Yeah, I think it's probably already on a t-shirt somewhere. Um,
Probably.
mhm.
My favorite is the graphic of insert woman career here, and it says girls can't what? And so it's just
Yeah,
like that with women and being in ministry as
I,
well.
I have a Barbie box that I use for my trunk or treat costume as
Oh,
Pastor Barbie.
I
And
love
then I put on
that.
the sign, girls can do anything.
We sure can.
Uh,
I love that. So,
yes.
over the course of your ministry, how have you seen the role of the local church change? And what do you think those changes have meant for us as pastors?
Once upon a time, the church was not only the spiritual center of a community, but the social
Mhm.
center, in some places, the political center. I mean, it was sort of the hub
Mhm.
of every community. And that has gone away.
Mm, right.
It just has. Even in rural communities, the church doesn't have that kind of influence
It's true.
anymore. Um, it means we work harder and smarter
Mhm.
to do those connecting pieces, um, out of the office into the community. How do we connect with folks? How do we connect inside, um, for people who are looking for those relational connections?
Mhm.
And sometimes church can become that place. The farther removed we are, the more they're searching for what the church can offer and the church can provide. Um, with the rise of Christian nationalism,
Mhm.
we have to be very careful about the enmeshment of God and country.
Yes.
Um, and Jesus would not have worn the T-shirt that said "Make Rome get great again," you
Mhm.
know. um, but to be clear about who we are and what our mission is. Um, Christ and culture to be in the world, but not of the world.
Yes.
Very much Niebuhr and very much Wesley, I think.
Agreed. So I'm So we've got technology, social media, the pandemic, the church split. There's been a lot that's happened in the past 6 years of the church
Absolutely.
life for all involved. But pastors, I feel like we don't always discuss as much of how it affected us and our lives professionally and personally. So, what do you think has been some of the changes in this post events ministry world that we serve in? What do you think has been some of the most challenging opportunities and the challenges that have come along in that?
Um, yeah, I moved to my last appointment in June of 2020. right in
Wow.
the middle of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we were having to scramble to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how are we going to do church.
Right.
Um, a lot of churches were remaining closed, but
Mm-hmm.
we lived in a tourist area on the coast where everything was opening back up because tourism
Yes.
was opening back up. And so we had to come on board early with all of that. And okay, how there are people who are going to want to come, but there's still a lot of people who aren't.
Right.
So how are we going to make this work? And I think the technology piece has been a good thing for the church.
Agreed.
It's enabled us to reach people that we weren't reaching before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we used to take the cassettes of the recordings of worship services to homebound folks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now they can just go online and watch in real time and feel like they're part of the community,
Yes.
still part of the body. So that has been a very positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I'm big on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good way to connect with people. I have found out people were going into the hospital for surgery. They'd post it on Facebook or Instagram. It was
Right.
like, oh, I didn't know that.
And now I know.
Um, Now I know. Oh, I didn't want to bother you. Well, it's not a bother.
It's my job.
I want to care for you
Mm-hmm.
going through all of these things. Um, so it's opened up opportunities to connect. I may be wrong, but I think John Wesley would have been all over it.
I agree with you on that one. I think
Um,
he would have been one of the first live streaming
I think so.
pastors.
The world is my parish. I mean, here
Mm-hmm.
it is right there. I think it's a
Yes,
very Wesleyan tool um,
I can agree with that.
to use for ministry. Um, I think the next big thing on the horizon for us is AI.
Mm,
How is that going to impact ministry?
yes.
And our work as clergy? There are good things. There are negative things. The environmental impact,
Mm-hmm.
of course, is something to be considered as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think moving through that is going to be sort of the next thing for us to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Any tool has a positive and a negative.
Mm-hmm.
How can this be used positively for the work of ministry, for the
Mm-hmm.
kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
um, for what we're trying to do?
Right.
So for some of us older people, it's like, why is my camera not working? You move this. Okay.
That
Um,
works.
it works. Um, but it's for me, it's a challenge. Okay, let me
Mhm.
get up to speed with this.
Right.
And most older people that I know are very tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good thing.
I think that's a very good thing. And I agree with you. I sometimes feel like the older generation at different times have been more receptive of the change than younger or middle. And then there's been
Huh,
situations
interesting.
where there are the middle that are more, and then there is the younger. I think that across the board, all ages, we have there are things that my generation is averse to. There are things that we want to be included in. And I think every generation has that. So I think it's
Yeah,
wise
I
to
think you're right.
say that older, middle, and younger are all interested in being. inclusive. It just depends on what, and welcoming change. It just depends on
Mhm.
what that change or inclusivity looks like.
I loved it when we went to screens in the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
It was the older members who loved it because they said, I can see the words
Right.
on the screen. I can't read them in my hymnal anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but you put the big words up there and
Yes.
I can see.
Yes.
And it made a difference for them. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, we're not getting rid of the screens. We're
Right.
good.
It benefited them.
Hmm.
I can remember scrambling to figure out what are we going to do on Sunday when I was at St. John's and COVID
Oh
happened.
yeah.
And we had the CDs that I would take the worship service, burn them onto, and our secretary mailed them out. We had nothing that was live stream or video recorded yet. And one of the church members who was super technology savvy, he still owns a media company, and we bought all of his equipment. And I remember us being in the chapel for that first live stream Sunday,
Mhm.
and the next year and a half is just this make it up as you go along
Exactly.
sort of deal. But I can remember that I've always said that's one of the positives that came out of the pandemic, specifically for St. John's, where I saw what they went from when we started the COVID pandemic to when it unofficially
Yeah.
ended. And they have all their own live streaming equipment now. And a church member donated money that was technically like a media grant, and it forced us to modernize. But I think
Hmm.
it forced a lot of churches to modernize.
It
And
did.
evangelistically, it was a good thing because these older ones who maybe were more averse to the technology and all of that were, oh, I can see. Oh, I'm homesick, but I can still watch. Oh, my
Yes,
mom, who is at the assisted living, a care worker can come in and connect her, and she's able to watch it.
absolutely.
There was more of a reason to welcome it because it was forced upon all of us. And
Yeah.
that I agree with the technology being the positive part that came out of that. And that's one of those I'll
Hmm.
look back when I'm at 60, 70 something retiring. And that's one thing that'll always stand out for me because
Yeah.
that was the beginning of my ministry. The first year I had Reverend attached to me, we were just coming out of this COVID pandemic. And
And
it
people are
was,
looking to me for
mhm,
leadership through this.
I can't imagine
That's a
what
heavy,
that
that's
was
a
like for
heavy
y'all.
burden that y'all had,
Mm-hmm.
that all of us had.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But especially those
we
of you
got no
whom were in
clue.
the senior pastor
Hmm.
positions, y'all had no clue.
Hmm.
And these
Yeah, they
smaller
they call it
churches,
building the plane as you're flying it.
mm-hmm, that's what it felt like. And
Yeah,
especially the suburban and or rural churches, we did not have the same resources or normalcy that bigger churches were able to utilize.
yeah.
It was a time. And then this,
There's no
mm-hmm,
reverse. There's no neutral.
mm-hmm.
I've got 5 different speeds. It might be slow, it might be fast, but the only way we can go is forward.
It's very wise and
Um,
accurate.
yeah.
All of us can only go forward.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's where God is.
Mm-hmm.
God's behind us, but God's calling us forward. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way we can go.
It is. And it always finds a way to work out
It
one
is
way or
like I've talked about several times, resilience.
another. Mm-hmm.
And there's always something on the other side of whatever it is we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've just got to be. to be faithful and trust, which is the
Mhm.
hardest thing for me.
It's the hardest thing for me. When
Um,
you're a
that
planner.
the morning prayer and the hymnal and order for morning worship. New every morning is your love, great God of light, and all day long you are at work for good in the world. And I remind myself of that over. God is at work for good in the world,
Mhm.
uh, not trying to mess us up or
Mhm.
trap us or gotcha. God is at work for good in every situation,
Mhm.
in every circumstance, in every person, and in every church. And we've just got to figure out how to partner with the good work that God's doing
Mhm.
and go forward.
Yeah,
Because there's so many negative voices,
there's
so many
plenty of
negative
those.
voices. Yeah, yeah. Where is God doing that good thing?
Hmm. I always tell people God does not, I believe that God does not cause bad things to happen, but God brings good out of all that
Hmm.
happens. No
Yes.
matter how small or how deep you have to pull to find the good, there is some seed of good that God brings out of all. And we can't
Hmm.
explain why this happens, but that doesn't. Why this prayer is answered in the way it was asked, but another is not. All we can be certain about with our limited human understanding is that God is God, God is good. Therefore, only good things come from God. The
Hmm.
rest fall in the category of our broken free will world.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah, you've seen the thing, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and make bad
Oh,
decisions.
yeah. I haven't seen that. I take that ugly face back then because I cannot stand that
Oh, I
expression.
can't either.
Everything happens for a reason. Personally, I do not like that expression because of how it's weaponized, but I
Oh
like
yeah,
that version of it.
yeah.
That
And
is an
and
accurate
that's the
version.
truth. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes it just happens because of our own stupidity or bad choices.
Exactly.
And we can't blame God for that.
No, we can't. We cannot.
And I've made plenty of those my own self.
Oh,
So,
I certainly have as well, and will make plenty more in my next 30 years of ministry and however
mhm.
long the Lord puts me on earth, years of life too. That's just being human.
Yeah, you're not officially a pastor until you've messed up really bad
Oh,
and
goody.
and have to work your way through that with your people.
Mm.
And it may not be for the church as a whole, it may be an individual that you have to
Mhm.
go to and say, I messed up.
Yeah.
I need your forgiveness. How do we work through this?
Hmm.
And it'll happen.
The rite of passage of
Mm,
pastor.
it really is. It's not a matter of if you do, but when you do.
Hmm.
Because and when it happens, you go, oh, there it is.
Well, as soon as you said that, what I would identify probably as my first one popped in my brain. And then I started thinking about all the others that have since followed it. But if we're talking about the first one where
Yeah.
you went, oh, I
Oh,
can
yeah,
exactly think about mine.
yeah. And that's when you really became a pastor and you had to be vulnerable
Hmm.
and model
Hmm.
what what seeking forgiveness looks like.
Hmm. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's a hard pill for our congregants to swallow as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah. Pastors aren't perfect. They mess up, they make mistakes.
We certainly do.
And
We
then
do.
it's what do we do with it?
Hmm. Where do we and God go from there.
Hmm.
So when I was taking journalism in high school, one thing that we were taught that your final question always is there anything else you
Anything
would like
else
to
that you would
add?
like to add?
So going back to my days in journalism in high school and journalism 101, is there anything else you would like to add?
It's been a privilege. Um, you don't do it by yourself.
Mm-mm.
Um, I think I'm thinking of the people who have gone before, who fought for the right for women to be ordained so that I could have 49 years of ministry. Um,